Hey everybody, welcome into M&M across the board. Ashley Miller, Sean Martin, Eric McDowell back for another week of sports fun. We're going to go around the world of sports. And this week we really are because we've got NFL football. We'll talk about the week that was, the week that's coming up. We've got baseball. And guys, every week I say wild card. It just keeps getting more wild. Things are getting more settled in the NL, but the AL is totally nuts. And it's going to go down to the final few games, which is awesome for us to talk about. And we're going to go Ryder Cup with Mr. Eric McDowell, which I love. Really cool event this weekend. If you didn't see it, we're going to kind of dig into that and just like the history of it and you know, how cool it is and what cool of an event it is. So we will start with baseball. We're going to start with baseball. Sorry, I lied. We just talked about this and then I forgot. But let me first tell you where you can find us. If you're watching us on YouTube, we're on YouTube, Twitter, we're on Apple iTunes, and we're on Spotify. On Twitter, we are at MMMATB1. That's MMM across the board 1. So we hope you're joining us for more than the first time. But share, tweet, follow, all that good stuff. We'd love if you'd share our content. All right, guys. Baseball, we say it every week. It feels like kind of a broken record, but every week it's getting just a little bit better because now we're coming down. I mean, there's 5 and 6 games left in the regular season, and the AL wild card is a total traffic jam. And when you have the Red Sox and the Yankees involved, it's awesome.
Yeah, you know, will the name Bruce Effin Zimmerman go down in lore in New England? The young kid outpitched. It was Chris Sale Monday or Tuesday, whatever day it is. And the Red Sox, man, you had a bad weekend at home against the Yankees. You're looking at a great schedule with 3 against the Orioles and 3 against the Nationals, and you go out and lose that first game. That's tough. I mean, they're still in position. They're half game ahead of Seattle, which give them a ton of credit for hanging in there. And Toronto too. I actually had a conversation yesterday with one of our listeners who said he wants to put together sound bites from the last month of me bashing the Yankees because every time I do that, they seem to respond. So in the spirit of Costanza doing the opposite, I'll congratulate the Yankees on their impending World Series championship
come on.
this year. Good for them. Aaron Boone, lifetime contract. Cashman, keep him around. Go for it, and we'll see how that plays out.
Listen, just because your team hasn't stepped up to the plate.
My team's still playing? My God. But the A's needed a parachute a few weeks ago, and the Mariners own them. They own them. And I shaking my head, say, the games in Oakland are over for the year. You got to finish with Houston. Just an awful last 6 weeks for the A's, and very disappointing because it looked like they were going to make a run. But now you sit back as a baseball fan, enjoy it, and see how it plays out the next week. And you know what? As a baseball fan, I would love a 1-game playoff with the Yankees and Red Sox.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would. I've kind of been pulling for Toronto a little bit, but the Yankee Red Sox 1-gamer, boy, I'd be burning up the phone lines that day talking to fans of both teams.
If that happens, you won't see me next week. You'll see me on a cot, okay? Because in 78, dating freshman year in college, I took some friends in a Ford Falcon to a bar in New Haven, Connecticut to watch the playoffs. So I don't want to go there, but it's been a tale of 2 seasons because, as you remember, the Red Sox dominated the Yankees. Even though they got swept, they still owned the season series. So that tells you where they used to be and where the Yankees used to be. And so if they end tied, I don't see it now with the 2-game lead, but if they do, Boston gets it because of the season series. So, and I bet Stanton's probably hoping to go to Boston for that matter. But yeah, the Sox play Baltimore, Washington, and yesterday was the fitting anniversary 10 years ago, the famed chicken and beer disaster with Francona, people may remember, and Papelbon blew it against an inferior Orioles team that put Tampa into the playoffs. So it was a fitting tribute to play that way last night. But even with the schedule, I told both of you, I still thought New York would get in, even playing Tampa, Toronto. And I think what would be really exciting would be a 1-game playoff on Monday.
Yeah.
And it looks like there's still a shot of that.
There is still a shot. I mean, it would be game 163 on Monday, which would be awesome. Listen, I read a Passan article yesterday, Jeff Passan, and he laid out all these wild scenarios, and while the percentages are not high, there's still the possibility that you get a playoff game on Monday. There's the possibility that you get a 3-way tie for the wild card. And that scenario, how it plays out is just, it would be awesome. There's a scenario of a 4-way tie. Like, there's all kinds of stuff that could happen. But the 163, I think there's still like a 5% chance that can happen. And that's not awful. So we could see a 3-way tie, which would be pretty cool.
Can you imagine, Ashley, the game's 2 games in, that by the time you go to the division series, your bullpen is like, are you kidding me? There's nobody left.
Nobody left. Everybody, and you don't have your starting pitcher. I'll be interested to see, like, it's so interesting to me, like on the NL side, you've got teams who are playing against other teams that are kind of just done. So like the Angels are obviously done. And like, how do these teams that don't have anything to play for play against teams that still have something to play for? You know what I mean? Like, do you continue to use all your best guys? Do you do you utilize everyone? Or are the teams who are already in, do they continue to throw their best guys? Or do you see them setting up their bullpen and their starting rotation to be ready for game 1 of whatever series they play in the playoffs? Because, like, no offense, but if I'm playing whoever it is, I don't care if they get in or the other team gets in, if it's about me setting up my team to play the best baseball they can play in the playoffs. So I'll be very interested to see how that all plays out, but also how it affects other teams. Like, obviously the Orioles are a whole different, like, for some reason that team repeatedly stinks every year. And for some reason they cause the Yankees problems every year and give the Red Sox problems at very inconvenient times.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you look at the NL West, okay, for the Dodgers. Scherzer's pitching tonight.
Mm-hmm.
They're 2 games behind the Giants, and the Giants finished with San Diego, and they've kind of rolled over here a little bit. So the Dodgers are 2 games back, and you have to start thinking, where are we going to be next week? You'll be home, and you're going to be home against St. Louis. So we'll see what they do with Scherzer tonight. Now he'll be on rotation because they have 5 games left, and he's going tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be his start anyway, which would be good for the Dodgers. But you talk about just an all-time play-in game. The defending champs, they've been in the World Series a few times in recent years against a team that's won 17 in a row now. I mean, my God, they made Eric's hat of the week with this streak. So that's must-see TV for sure.
I think the Mariners don't get the attention because of where they are. I lived in California for about, I think it was 8 years, and the anti-East bias is big time because everybody talks about the teams in the East. But they've won 12 of 14, and look what they're doing. And
because they're playing the A's
are down, but frankly, they're beating an A's team that makes the playoffs consistently every year. There is no question that Seattle would like to see the Orioles continue their magic, and that Toronto and Tampa Bay can beat up on New York, because I don't think the Angels are in a good situation. We won't go into depth with that, but we heard Ohtani have to clarify his comments about basically saying things have to change. So they have a disaster there. I don't think that team is ready to take the field. I think Seattle could conceivably run the table and sneak in. And if they do, hats off to them, because it's a remarkable story. Haniger has just been on absolute fire. He is the Stanton of the Mariners, 3 homers in 2 days, for example.
Yeah, and I think for as set up, we've talked about this though, for as set up as the Red Sox are and should win 4 of their final 5 games, we said nothing is given in baseball, but it's totally the opposite for the Yankees. Like, they've got the toughest schedule remaining of any team left trying to get into the playoffs, because they've got 2 in Toronto and 3 in Tampa. So again, that's a team that's going to have to go out and earn it. And I don't see Tampa and Kevin Cash being like, you know what, we're in, we're all set. Like, they're going to try and stick it to the Yankees. They don't want the Yankees in. Like, that's one of the scenarios that I see playing out, is like, they're going to throw whatever they have to at it, not to the detriment of their own team, of course, but they will try to make sure that the Yankees do not make the playoffs. I thought going into the final 9 games, those final 3 series for the Yanks, 2 of 3 in each series would win it. Obviously, they've swept New York, and they took the first one in Toronto. I think if they go like 3 of the final 5, you're probably in no matter what. But it's so interesting how it plays out, because you have other teams beating other teams, and still so you have some control over it, but at the same time, you also have some not control over it.
Yeah, I like the Yankees' chances here up too. And you do have the Red Sox, Mariners, and Blue Jays are all a game apart. But if the Yankees can get one more in Toronto to just extend the lead over that team, that's as good as they could do. It's, and the Mariners, I agree with Eric. I think they can run the table. The Angels are done. The A's are done. Their games are all at home. Hopefully they'll get some support there. I know they're a really low crowd the other night. And they got called out on Twitter by somebody, and somebody replied like, "Hey, we've been to the playoffs 4 times in 40 years, 44 years. What do you want?" So we'll see how they do, but they have a great schedule to finish up, and for them, they got to be hoping these football AL East teams all pick each other off. I need more coffee here on National Coffee
Day.
Hey, do you two, I think, will agree? It's safe to say the manager of the Padres will not be tingling with excitement come Monday morning when he's gone. Okay, I mean, talk about a classic fall. The good thing for Jace is that at least the weather in San Diego is good for a Monday morning tea time at about 7:45. But nobody saw that coming with the Padres. Absolutely nobody.
Yeah, you're right. But I also think, I don't know that anyone saw what the Giants did coming either. So I think you have like somewhat, it's not an excuse, but at least you could be like, well, nobody saw that coming from the Giants. So if that didn't happen, you're probably talking about a Padres team that's in. But listen, that's baseball. Like, teams do things that it feels like for a long time it was the Giants every other year. And now the Giants just tend to surprise people. And again, maybe it's where they play, and that, these West Coast teams aren't getting as much, pub, and they don't have a superstar like Tatis, and they don't have, they just don't have like the magic of, again, a team like the Angels who have Trout and they have Ohtani. People aren't talking about that West Coast team and the Giants. They're talking about the Dodgers. They're talking about the Padres. They're talking about the Angels. And yet, San Francisco just casually strolling in and still able to play for, they're still competing for a division title at this point, not even just getting in.
I think one thing to look forward to, we're talking about the wild card. You're also looking at 2 other first round matchups that are going to be awesome. The Astros and the White Sox, and then the Braves and the Brewers. I picked the Brewers a couple months ago to get to the World Series. Love that rotation. Atlanta's been around, and they've been to the NL Championship Series last year, and they're 3.5 up on Philly. Big win last night. I think they're going to be okay and get in there. But the playoffs this year are going to be fantastic baseball.
They got to stop throwing Will Smith. Chris is a Braves fan, and he continues to say, I don't know how that guy still has a job. What are they doing? And like last night, he made it interesting, but he figured it out. So that bullpen could be interesting in a tight 1-game or a tight 1-run scenario if the Braves are in the playoffs with a team like the Brewers. But yeah.
Hey, one other thing I noticed in the standings, I want to give him a shout out because the regular season is ending. AJ Hinch got buried for what happened in Houston, lost his job, sat out a year, given another chance. I didn't even realize until this morning the Tigers are only 7 games under 500. That's a decent job he's done there. They got some good young players and some good young arms on that pitching staff. And to see them sitting in 3rd place, only 2 games out of 2nd place, good for the Tigers for maybe giving their fans some hope.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, they went all pitching in this year's draft. I mean, they loaded up on arms. So you could see that team very quickly becoming much better. And obviously they already are much better than last season, but I could see that team in like 2 years being someone to reckon with in that division.
That's right. Boyd, Mize, they've got some tremendous young arms. I read, in fact, yesterday morning, it's great timing, Sean, because they said, watch out for the Tigers over the next couple of years. The wild card is a possibility. The White Sox have some young talent, but pretty much some veterans making it happen this year. But no question, what Hinch did to get another chance. I think Hinch has done a better job this year than Cora. I'm being perfectly honest with that. I really do. And he has a lot less groceries in which to shop with.
Well, he's got less talent for sure.
Right.
So, well, let's go back to the Red Sox. What's the deal there, Eric? I mean, do you see all their games? Most of them you certainly follow them closer than I do. What's the talents there? What is it? Is it I don't know. You tell me.
I think you could go to a Little League game and see a team deflated And I think that's what this is. This team is deflated. It's so difficult. What we'll talk about the Cardinals later, but to do that type of winning streak is magnificent. It's unheard of. But I think the Red Sox are still deflated. I really do. I think the bullpen has been overused. I think the big mistake over the weekend actually was not setting up your ace to go Friday. And here we are watching in front of a barbecue family outing last night at Oriole Park. There were about 30 people there. You see Sale take the mound. And anytime the problem with Sale is they feel they've got to keep him wrapped. He's got a limit. But you don't have to do that to every starter. Is in the sixth, a line out to second, and suddenly the bullpen comes in. This bullpen is a disaster. And if this team gets into the playoffs, I really don't think at this point they will. That's going to be a problem. They're just not going to match up. But it's a deflated ball club, and they got to stop reading the press and see, oh, you're going to beat up on Baltimore. Because as Ashley said a few weeks ago, the Orioles are a hungry, good young team. This team is a very big disappointment this week. And the last piece on that, to see J.D. Martinez, who takes all day, swing and have one inning against a pitcher who threw all of 6 games, 4-pitch inning. Seriously.
Yeah.
To me right now, that's a lack of effort, and they need to wake up this morning and shake it off because they're still in right now.
Right. Yeah. And I think, listen, this is certainly not over. If trends continue and the Yanks continue playing the way they are playing, which is hitting the tar out of the ball, and the Red Sox continue the other way, you could see things going poorly for them. But we know how streaky the Yankees are. Like, as a Yankees fan, I am not convinced that they will be in the playoffs. And I know it's like, of course, I'm just kind of like, it's safe. It's like a safety net. Like, oh, in case they don't make it, well, now I've prepared myself. But they could realistically not make it. Like, this team goes from 13-game winning streaks to 6-game losing streaks. Like, it's very feasible that all of a sudden the bats go cold and that you get one bad start and you're looking at a real problem. So right now, things are good in New York. They also have a suspect bullpen. Chad Green has been less than reliable. Then you throw out guys like Lucas Litke and Wandy Peralta. You don't know what you're getting. And again, with Aroldis Chapman, like, he can be so good. He can be the best closer in the game, or he can be the most unreliable closer in the game. So I think the Yankees have similar problems when it comes to the bullpen. I don't know it's that they're overtaxed per se, like you think of the Red Sox, but I just think it's that they're totally unreliable, and you never know what version of these pitchers you're going to get.
Yeah, don't rule out Toronto. They're right there. Right. They have 2 more with the Yankees, and then they get those pesky Orioles at home the last weekend, including Sunday, Bruce F. Zimmerman. And maybe he'll become the Red Sox savior with a big performance on Sunday and get that group in. We'll see.
Yeah, and that's the type of team we talked about it. If they can just kind of find their mojo, you know, they get, even if they win one of the next 2 against the Yanks, like, that's the type of team that is going to go into that final series knowing exactly what they have to do against Baltimore, and that's win. And I think if they play the type of fun baseball that they're capable of playing and don't get tight and feel like, oh, this is, you know, do or die, which it is. But if they don't play tight, I think the Jays make easy work of the Orioles, unlike the problems that the Yankees and Red Sox have had with them.
All right, gang. On that note, we'd like to thank Mohawk Honda for their sponsorship of our show, which can be found on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify, Twitter at MMMATB1. Mohawk Honda, the current supply and demand challenges within the auto industry makes this a perfect time for you to get top dollar for your vehicle. Right now at Mohawk Honda, you can take advantage of the Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash offer. They'll put cash in your hand for your vehicle the same day you come in, even if you don't try and buy from them. That's a pretty sweet deal, especially for all those recent college grads or students in need of a new ride or for some extra cash. Mohawk Honda has consistently kept their lot fully stocked with hundreds of pre-owned vehicles. Their large inventory makes shopping fun as you browse through the many makes and models to choose from. You can also check out their full selection online. Stop in and say hi to Greg Johnson, the Assistant General Manager, Jake Hot Sauce Doyle, and Luis, the VIP Man Morales, are one of the many helpful sales consultants here at Mohawk Honda. There's a vast selection of Honda certified pre-owned vehicles, so now is the time to take advantage of the Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash offer. Mohawk Honda in Glenville, where they always go out of their way to please you.
I would like to meet Jake Hot Sauce Doyle.
Maybe Jake Hot Sauce Doyle could do a little cameo on here.
Come on the show, do his own read, introduce himself. That way, maybe he could do some picks. I don't know who he is, but if you like sports,
can he take us out to a Mexican restaurant with that nickname?
Hot Sauce Doyle.
Maybe.
I love it.
Oh, so on that note,
you're up.
I got to give the LA Rams some credit here, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I picked against them.
Beginning of the year, I said, who is Matt Stafford? Is he the guy that was a good quarterback on just a really bad team? We'd find out in LA. Well, they put up some pretty good numbers on Tampa Bay defense the other day and beat the Bucs in a battle of unbeatens. Early on, they're the best team in football until somebody can prove otherwise. They have a top-flight defense. And, Stafford's found his range, and he's already connected big time with Cooper Kupp. Don't want to give them a shout-out to lead the NFL. I'll let you guys bring up the Raiders, and we'll celebrate that win. But, yeah, the Rams, you got to give the Rams a ton of credit for their start. And
I got one right. I can't believe it. I took a chance on them. Go ahead, Ash. What do you think?
Listen, I'm happy to admit that I picked the Bucs, and I still think the Bucs will be, right there in the mix, if not in the Super Bowl, because they have Tom Brady, and we know what Tom Brady does. Good game. I think at the beginning of the year, we all thought the Rams would be the best team in the division, and we would quickly learn if Matthew Stafford was going to be the X factor. I think we have learned. I know it's only 3 weeks in, but 3 weeks in, we realized that, yes, Jared Goff was the problem or one of the problems, and that Matthew Stafford is a solution to it. That doesn't mean they're going to win the Super Bowl, but they are a much better team with Matthew Stafford under center than they were with Jared Goff under center. And listen, Goff, props to the Lions. They're fighting every week. It doesn't mean they're winning, but I do think it's generated at least some passion from fans and interest from fans. This doesn't feel like the 0-16 team of 8 years ago or whatever. This is a team that fights. And God bless them, Justin Tucker just freaking breaking their hearts every week. He's broken a lot of hearts, but he crushed Detroit last Sunday. And I love Justin Tucker. He's awesome. He's one of the greatest kickers in NFL history. But man, those Lions, they just can't catch a break.
I watched that live. Can you imagine you two sitting behind the goalpost?
Oh.
And I look at the replays and you see a Lion fan going,
yeah.
Oh my God! It hits.
I thought he missed it. I thought it bounced back because you can't tell. I thought it bounced back out the other way, and then people in the newsroom start screaming, and I'm like, "What the?"
Yeah, I was watching that game live too to see the end because I like what the Lions are doing. I love their coach. I think they've taken on his personality already, and I think the wins will come. If Goff can step it up a little bit. Just a gut-wrenching loss for them, and that's just, he's bang on the Jets a little bit. That's such a Lion way to lose a game. And too bad. Too bad. They really played hard and rallied and took the lead. Jackson makes a great throw to set up the kick, but it was just an incredible finish. And just to add the little extra to hit the crossbar and have it bounce over, that's just an extra gut punch for the Detroit fans.
Brutal. Oh.
I'd like your thoughts on a couple of these. All right, we're going to go to Chicago. All right.
Oh,
the Bears hibernated. Is this correct? 47 total yards of offense. Okay,
one passing yard.
One passing yard. This is the debut of Justin Fields, but please, asterisk. Okay, it might have been the field of dreams because he was lying down on the job because the line gave up 9 sacks. 9 sacks. Seriously?
That's unbelievable. Nobody can succeed in that. Tom Brady couldn't succeed in that situation. Nobody. Matthew Stafford, nobody.
Well, they come to Vegas not next week, the week after, so I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, they're going to get it again.
Come to town, they very well might.
Yeah.
The one team I got to give some props to is Dallas. I still don't like their defense, but that division, to me, Dallas is clearly the best team in that division.
Who said that?
I think you did.
This girl.
It's. I think they have a lot of flaws.
Yeah.
But
so does every other team in that division.
The Eagles are terrible, and the Giants, Ashley,
no, they're terrible. And listen, the Washington defense has, I know they're the Bills, but they hung 43 on that defense.
43.
That's for some reason, everyone was on the Washington defense, and they just have not shown up at all. So
13 first downs. Yeah,
that's a brutal, just kind of reversal of fortunes from what everyone thought might be.
How about some love for the Bengals, by the way?
Yeah.
Joe
Okay,
Burrow.
whenever you do your picks, we always go, Pittsburgh at home, Cincinnati, because they lost 11 in a row. And here they go into Pittsburgh, and they gave up a season-low 10 points.
Mhm.
So, I mean, good for the people of Cincinnati that the Bengals – I think the Steelers are overrated. I think that proves the point.
Yep.
They have a disaster on their hands in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Right. They've been beaten at home twice now in 2 weeks. They beat Buffalo, good for them week 1, but Ben Roethlisberger looks older than me, and I'm old. I mean, they don't have a whole lot there. Mason Rudolph isn't it, and Dwayne Haskins stinks. I think Pittsburgh's going to struggle for the next few years. They're banged up on defense. That's not going to help them at all. They're not going to win a lot of 14-10 games right now until they get some of those guys back. But that is an absolute disaster. But yeah, I'm happy for the Bengals. I'm actually looking forward to watching them play this week.
Yeah.
Hammer down Coach Meyer a little bit more and beat his ego into the ground a little bit as the Jaguars they're going to have a struggle for at least a year.
I think that's part of it too. It's like the Bengals are almost the old Browns. Like the Browns get Baker and Odell, and people are now interested. They get Burrow, Cincinnati gets Burrow, and people are now interested, and the wins help. So I'm happy for the city of Cincinnati and that people finally want to watch Bengals games. Whether or not it turns into 8-10 wins, who knows? But they're an exciting team, and they give you enough that you want to keep coming back. As for the Bears, guys, I saw this at the 1-yard passing. I saw this from, I believe it was Rex Ryan and Dan Orlovsky, who literally called for Matt Nagy's job as soon as that game was over. Yeah. And I'm not a football coach, so I don't know the X's and O's per se of what their game plan was. But to paraphrase it, Orlovsky basically said, like, Nagy didn't do his job, and it's a fireable offense because he was either complacent or he's just a total idiot and doesn't know how to coach. He was basically like, that game plan was set up to fail. It was set up to get Justin Fields injured, all of the above. He's like, that guy should have been fired as soon as that game was over. And I was like, whoa, because I didn't see it live, but I saw the highlights. Crazy.
Yeah, I want to two games I want to look at coming up this week. One on a personal, because the optics are going to be interesting Monday night in Los Angeles. I saw a projection today where they think it's going to be 74% Raider fans there. The Raiders still the most popular team in LA.
That's one of the most interesting games to me.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more. And on another side note, when are people going to start calling out Mr. Advertising Pat Mahomes because another careless turnover with a game on the line? That's 2 weeks in a row. But then also I want to, especially Eric, you being a Pats fan, I want to get your thoughts on Brady's homecoming this week and what that's going to look like Sunday night, with the crowd.
Well, just to touch on the Chiefs, they're 1-2 and in the basement. I know Sean is just, the tears are flowing in that
euphoric.
They'll be fine.
But Sean, when you have 4 turnovers and one with 2 minutes left, I don't care who you are. You're not going to win at any level, college, high school, pro. And that's why the Chiefs now 1-2. But I will tell you as a preview next week, I will touch on the book about the relationship, but I know with the Patriots situation. But for now, just a brief comment on that is that I think there will be a lot of cheering. I don't think it'll be a booing situation because you have to look at how unique it was to have a guy for that many years with that coach and what he accomplished. And I cannot root against Tom Brady. The problem is when the game begins, you're forced to, okay?
Yeah.
But I think for Tom Brady, he does not show a lot of emotion, and he's very focused. But I don't know how he can walk into that stadium that morning and be Tom Brady. He is a human being, and I think there will be emotions. But once the snap, he'll play. It's going to be a very exciting game, and it's going to be extremely difficult to watch him beat the Patriots, which he will.
I was going to say that one could get ugly. Coming off a loss and coming off the game that and listen, Mac's interceptions weren't all bad, but he didn't play great, and so I just feel like that one could get ugly. As for the Chiefs, I understand people. They're 1-2. They're in the basement at 1-2. Like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. The fact that they had 4 turnovers, the Chargers had 0 turnovers, and it was a 6-point game tells you everything you need to know. Because if you start to take care of the ball even a little bit, not only are you going to be in games, they're going to win games because they just have more talent than almost every team out there. So the Chiefs are going to be fine. I understand that division is very good. It's much better than people probably gave it credit for. The Chiefs will be fine.
Yeah. I remember we did our preseason show. Someone here called for a regression. Yeah. Part of that was because I'm a homer.
Yes.
Yeah, look, Mahomes is great, okay, but he is still careless. He
Yep.
makes so many great plays on the fly that sooner or later law of averages catch up, and they're not great plays. You're going to keep trying. He's got to learn. They're even the best quarterbacks of all time. You got to learn. Sometimes you fall to the ground with the ball in your hand, or you get out of bounds. You just don't make some throws because he's put his team in bad spots 2 weeks in a row now. I think they'll be fine, but you never know. That defense isn't very good. They replaced the whole offensive line from this year. Maybe that's just going to take him a couple more weeks to get some cohesion going. But for now, I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah, no doubt. I also think, listen, we talked about the Broncos. I get it. They're 3-0. They'll fall right back down to earth quickly based on their schedule. And listen, the Raiders, I think the Raiders are going to be much better, obviously, than people thought. But they're going to have a couple tough games aside from the Giants, who they'll pound. Like, they'll have a few games that we will see just how good they are. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Like the Chargers-Raiders game this weekend, which should tell us a lot about both teams.
And one of them's Monday night, exactly, with the Chargers. The Raiders on Sunday, that was a tough first quarter, and it was a lethargic team, maybe just a little let down after a big road win at Pittsburgh. But they won the game, and that's not a game that the Raiders have won in previous years. They got down 14-0, a pick six, and then a touchdown run, and they got back in it, and they tried to give it away late, but they found enough to win the game. At the end of the day, you are what your record says you are, and they're 3-0. And I've been banging on Denver for 40 years, and I still don't think they're that good. But you got to give the Broncos credit. Yeah, they've beaten teams' aggregate records are 0-9, but they didn't pick their schedule.
Right.
Okay, they won the games, and then that's all you can do. And we'll see. They got the Ravens this week. They seem to got things working out.
Right.
Maybe pick up the Tucker kick and get some momentum going for them. But we'll see. But it's been interesting so far. I've enjoyed it. But for me, Sunday night is a tough one to watch. I'll watch it because A, it's football, and B, my wife's a Pats fan. My screening questionnaire 16 years ago left little to be desired.
Yeah.
Duke fan too.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. But anyway, the hard part I have with it is I hate the Patriots. Right. I'm still upset about the fumble in the snow in 2001. But even then, the whole Spygate, Deflategate thing, to me, it's an asterisk. I think there was a lot there. I think the league covered it up. I have a hard time with it. And I know Robert Kraft has been very charitable and gives a lot back to the New England area. But I read some excerpts of a new book coming out today prior to the show, and it said things aren't as always rosy as they looked. And Belichick's the best coach in the history of the league, but I don't have a ton of respect for him. And I'm actually kind of happy that Brady won the Super Bowl last year.
Me too.
To kind of maybe show that he was a little more responsible for that than Belichick. But Eric, you touched on it, but what are your feelings on that? Does Belichick just a little bit of shine come off because they struggled last year, struggling this year, or is it just you got to move on and you got to reload? It might take a couple of years.
Well, they opened the pocketbooks last year, and again, no excuses. Everybody had COVID guys out. They had a lot of guys out. Gilmore isn't playing as well. But I think, to be perfectly honest, I think both the owner and the coach thought that Tom was coming to an end and they needed to rebuild and look to the future. But by the same token, I think Tom Brady deserved to be a little better. He deserved to be able to see Belichick in person, which Belichick apparently didn't want to do. Tom Brady, people need to remember, also didn't take a pay cut, but he kept his salary much lower than others, even Stafford's at the time, so they wouldn't have the cap issue and be able to get other talented players. And the fact is, Tampa came in with an offer and said, we'll give you whatever you want. We'll get you the receivers and everything you want. And they did that. But I hope, this will all blow over in a few years when Tom retires in 2049, and then he can come back and have his number retired and all will be good at that point. But it's obviously an exciting thing to look at this book and to see what it's going to bring to the table. I don't think I want to read it. I want to just look and enjoy what the 20 years of Tom Brady did.
Just look at the pictures.
Look at the pictures.
Also,
I do want to say about Deflategate. I think it happened. I think it was stupid. You're going to beat the Colts by 30 points and you have to do that. And nobody talked about that. I do think it was an inside deal. I can't believe that Brady would have to do that for that game. He hadn't done it before, didn't do it since. Why would you have to do that? You're going to beat the Colts by 30 anyway. So that one smells. The other stuff, no question, was wrong.
Here's the thing, though, with the deflating the footballs. I think it probably up until that point happened every week with a home team. Hey, you go to the quarterback. How do you like the ball? Right?
Right. It's just
I don't think it was that big of a deal. What I think it was –
Is it like pine tar? You know what I mean?
I think so.
Good,
I think
good
stuff. You know what I mean?
If there's a PSI range, you want the quarterback comfortable with throwing the ball, right? He's your guy. So I don't think it was uncommon throughout the league, but what I think it was they got hammered because they didn't cooperate. They lied about it. The cover-up is worse than the crime. But I think it was also from Spygate, where to me that's the biggest scandal in the history of sports that'll never be told. The NFL destroyed the evidence. But I think that's why the punishment was so severe, because now they got caught doing something again. Okay. Yeah. And that's the thing. And Brady destroying his phone with a hammer or something the day the league wanted to see it. Yeah. And I say, well, that's how I dispose of my phone.
Mean, it's so absurd.
Come on. Just come on. So, I think that's why. I think that's why it was a big deal, because they fought. And instead of just saying, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Got it.
Yeah, Sean, you said you hate the Patriots. I hate the Patriots. If you are not a Patriots fan, the Patriots are hateable. Everything about them. And listen, I'm on the Tom Brady bandwagon now, but Tom Brady has changed over the years. He to me was the equivalent of Bill Belichick. Like I don't like Bill Belichick. We talked last week about his interaction with the media. I hate all of that. I think it's just absurd the way he answers questions. He's hateable for a reason, not just because he wins games. Deflategate, Spygate, all that stuff adds to it. But Tom Brady, to me, has I think maybe just doesn't care so much what people think over the years. Like 10 years in Tom Brady versus 20 years in Tom Brady is a totally different person. He's become funny. His social media accounts are great. Like, he's just a likable guy. And that happened even before he left New England. That happened for me. I was like, I don't hate Tom Brady as much. I don't want to lose to Tom Brady, but I don't hate him as much. And now I like him because he doesn't play for the Patriots. He plays for somebody else.
He has nothing, period, to, period, prove, period.
Right.
And you have to go back on the Patriots side here. This was a kid that was like fifth on the depth chart, okay, in Michigan behind Brew. He was not, he had that chip in the shoulder saying, I'm good. And not many kids can go on the first day of camp to the owner of an NFL team and say, I will make you proud. This was the right pick. I will be the man. That's what he did. Mm-hmm. And Bledsoe, with an injury, gave the kid the opportunity, and Brady took it and did a phenomenal job. And no matter what happens in the history books of the NFL, people will look and see that those titles and that run, we won't see that. I don't care what team it is. We will not see dynasties in this league. I don't see how it is ever possible again. But when Belichick retires, if you watch him, the minute the game of the season's over, he's funny. He's always had a sense of humor. People talk about that. With the sons that played lacrosse in college and all that he's a hilarious guy, but he will not change for the press. There was a question this week. Brady's thrown 22, what an idiot. I'm sorry. Why are you bothering asking that question? You know the answer. We're going to look at the team. We moved on. He's a great player. Stop. Give it up. But when it's all over.
But you asked the question of what did you see on those Mac Jones interceptions? And he just stood there, looked dumbfounded for 15 seconds, and then was like, I don't know. Come on.
But we talked about it last week. You have to ask the question.
Yeah.
He can handle it any way he wants. But true story about Brady before we move on. His first ever game against the Jets. I was at the Raider-Miami game that day. That was the early part. It was the first game back after the 9/11 attacks. And after the Raiders got beat in the last couple seconds on a Jay Fiedler scramble, nauseated me. We were in a bar watching the Jets and Patriots, and I saw the play where Mo Lewis hit Bledsoe. And I remember seeing Brady come in, and I started laughing. I'm like, Tom Brady's in the NFL? Are you serious?
Right.
He kind of got held back at Michigan.
He did.
Michigan was trying to force feed Drew Henson onto the football program because they had promised him he would play to keep him from going to the Yankees in Major League Baseball. Yeah. And that's why Brady's growth at Michigan, or at least his people being aware of him, was stunted because he didn't play all the time at Michigan. You go back, he had great numbers there, but I saw him take the field and I laughed. I couldn't believe he was in the league. which just proves that I don't know a damn thing.
Isn't it funny though how you have moments like that you're like, ha, remember when I laughed at Tom Brady coming into his first game in the NFL and then he won 7 Super Bowls? That's funny.
Well, last thing
guys,
is, and remember, I grew up and the Boston Patriots were horrid. Okay. And as a kid, my uncle and father would take me to a game, and my uncle said, "You ready to see some NFL football, Eric?" "I am." "You won't today." So that's why, as a Pats fan, we appreciate, because it was horrendous for so long.
Yeah. Real quick, guys, because we didn't even talk about the Sunday night game. Chris Collinsworth, I think, put it perfectly when he said, does Aaron Rodgers look like a guy who is not invested in the Green Bay Packers?
No.
Like, that final drive was classic Aaron Rodgers, and he pumped his fists before as he walked off the field, and Mason Crosby walked on the field for a 51-yard field goal. Like, that's not a chippy, but he knew, like, I just did what I needed to do to get my team in position. Like, that is a guy who, I know week 1 was whatever, but he's playing with a chip on his shoulder, and he's playing like he was last year. Like, after everyone overreacted in week 1, I feel like Aaron Rodgers, we said he would be fine, and he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Just got a RELAX Packers.
Yes.
On that note, hey, fall's officially here, and that means change may be coming to your home. Does your furnace need to be replaced, or are you looking for an upgrade for your heating system? Johnstone Supply in Troy can make sure your home is heated properly for this colder weather that's on the way. A family-owned and operated business, Johnstone Supply in Troy has been helping upstate New York residents for decades. Visit their store on 6th Avenue in Troy for more information on how they can help you this fall. Whether it's finding the proper change to your filters or making sure your home is heated properly for the new weather, Johnstone Supply in Troy staff can help you answer any questions that you may have. From George to Tom and many more, the staff is looking forward to seeing you. Follow them on Facebook or call them today at 518-272-5922, Johnstone Supply in Troy. And speaking which, the colder weather is coming, which means our golf season is coming to an end, but a tremendous weekend. It's for Team USA.
It was awesome.
Well, we both know, all three of us know, Sean and Ash, is that golf is an individual sport. It's not about them or his or her. It's about you and only you, usually. Now, the Ryder Cup takes the individual and puts that individual into a team, and they have to support each other. Doesn't happen in golf. It was the first Ryder Cup win for the Americans since 2016, and Steve Stricker, one of the best captains I think they've ever had for what he did. He said it provided a new era in golf. These are young guys who were hungry and really wanted it. He could see it in their eyes. The Americans had the most Ryder Cup rookies ever with 6, well, since 2008, and the youngest team ever, average of just 29. Now, in the past, it would be an all-star big-name fest, and frankly, players who have been there, done that, Phil and Tiger, all that stuff. Rory McIlroy, if you haven't seen it, folks, watch this interview, the future Hall of Famer, okay? Very emotional. He called the Ryder Cup the greatest experience of his career, and he talked about Rahm and Lowry and not himself. Meanwhile, it was safe to say that Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka's relationship, if you will, was equal to that of A-Rod and Veritek from years ago.
I wish they played together, though.
So Justin Thomas egged them on during the post-presser, another video to see, give the love, and show how much of a team the U.S. really was. And sure enough, they closed it with a hug. Thomas should get the Nobel Peace Prize. So finally, the whistles at Whistling Straits were not heckle whistles, no. They were whistles at a young group, the future of professional golf, who individually came together as one. And they have the trophy to prove it.
Yeah, good for them. I always get fascinated by the Ryder Cup because it always seems like Sergio Garcia is there to just he's the fly in the ointment.
Mop up.
Yeah, he went 3-1 this week, and good for him. And John Rahm was John Rahm, but still they found a way. And, Dustin Johnson, you talk about the young kids, Dustin Johnson's been around a little more, and he went 5-0 to lead the way. So good for him because the Ryder Cup is tricky. You play a team, your best ball, whatever the format is. But guys like Tiger and Phil, Eric, that you mentioned, had some poor Ryder Cup moments. To see some of these guys put it together for 3 days in 4 or 5 different formats is fantastic to watch.
I love, and Eric, you touched on the individuality of the sport. And despite listen, that rivalry between Koepka and DeChambeau, I don't think is overblown. I think it's a legitimate, like, they really don't like each other. It has been fueled certainly by fans and by media, but I don't think that they're just putting it on there. I really think like they just don't like each other. And I love that about golf. It needs rivalries. It needed Phil and Tiger. It needs all of that. But good for these guys who, in a lot of ways, are probably not quite as mature and they're very young to put rivalries aside and to understand the magnitude of an event like the Ryder Cup. I kind of compare it in my mind to the Olympics, and yet in Olympic golf, it's still an individual sport. So it's still even different than the Olympics in that you're playing for your country in the Olympics, but you're playing for yourself. Here, you're playing for your country and you're playing for your country. You're playing for your team. So good for them for putting all that aside and making it about the greater good. And it just it had that feel of like the World Cup in soccer. It had everything about the Ryder Cup, the fans, the emotions, like just the fun that they were having. It was awesome. It was awesome. And listen, we needed the U.S. to win in a lot of ways because I felt like it had become a little bit stale for fans. Like, oh, well, when you don't win, it's not quite as fun. So I'm glad the U.S. won because it just makes it interesting and a little more competitive. And you said it. I think this even proves that golf in the United States is set up to do very well in the future. Like guys like Colin Morikawa, we've seen him win 2 majors already. The U.S. is set up individually going forward to be very good. But I think even in the Ryder Cup going forward to be really, really good.
We had a little controversy, but first it's fun. It's actually weird for me to see concede in golf and gimmies, because if you do that in our golf league, we'll throw you into the back of the truck. But DeChambeau was peeved because he didn't get a gimme with that 3-foot shaft rule that they have. And it was funny, if you heard Paul McGinley's comments, it's the Ryder Cup, goddammit. How can you expect to get that from a team with a massive deficit that's going to throw everything at you? Come on, make the putt. But I really enjoy seeing these guys high-fiving and coming together. You know, when you play individually and the crowd claps, you go like this. You can't raise your hand. You can't even hug your caddy, okay, until the final putt is made and the tournament's over. So very exciting. And yes, Ashley, the future is incredibly bright.
It was nice to see them close the door on Sunday and come out and take care of business. Because you go back years ago, to me, I can't remember what year it was when the Ryder Cup was out near Boston, when Team USA put on a huge rally during Sunday singles and won just an absurd amount to rally past Europe. Eric, do you remember where that was? It was a place right outside of Boston.
It's the Country Club at Brookline.
Brookline, that's right.
Absolutely gorgeous. If you walk as a fan, you feel you shouldn't be stepping on the pristine grass.
Yeah, and that was fun to watch. But it was good to see them go out Sunday with the early lead and just take care of it. So, good for them. And Morikawa 3-0-1 to go with Dustin Johnson. A couple other guys didn't lose at all. But it was fun to watch and to see him. It's kind of like you got a football team and you go out and watch them beat somebody 41-0. You kind of enjoy it. You don't let them back in it and take care of it and move on. Call it a day, an early celebration.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's the 10 points, 19-9. The 10 points is the most they've ever beaten Europe by. But I also think it's funny how like my mind goes different places. My mind went to the Olympics. My mind also went to comparing this a little bit to like the new age of baseball, like bat flips and fun and whatever. And this was like people were chugging beer and chest bumping and high-fiving. Like it's the total opposite of what we're used to in golf. Like you said, when it's like polite, hat tip, whatever. This was just like total ruckus, like fans wild and guys shotgunning beers. Like it's just so not what you expect with football or with golf. And it's kind of similar to what has happened with baseball. It's not baseball from 20, 30 years ago. It's baseball now. The Ryder Cup is the equivalent of that.
The youth movement in sports continues.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, good for them. Good for them. All right. Are we ready?
I'm ready. Who wants to go first? Across the board.
I went first last week, so I'll defer.
Okay.
I'll take the kickoff to start the second half.
Eric, you want it or you want me to go?
Go ahead, Ash.
All right.
Looking forward to this one.
My topic this week is ACC football. To put it plain and simple, it sucks. Realistically speaking, the ACC will not have a team in the college football playoff.
Nope.
Because Clemson has worked its way out of the college football playoff already by losing to Georgia in week 1 and then an abysmal performance last week. You've got Wake Forest at the top of the conference at 2-0 and 4-0 overall. That should tell you all you need to know. And I understand that we're only 4 weeks in, but this conference is terrible. UNC and Duke, Sam Howell probably killed his draft stock.
Losing money, losing cash.
Duke was supposed to be this great team, not so much. All these teams that people thought were going to be so good are not. And now it's just like a mishmash of like, you've got Wake Forest is ranked, NC State is ranked, Boston College is ranked, and you know that's not going to last. All of those, well, they're going to beat up on other bad teams, so I guess it might last. But those teams would get pounded into oblivion by a Big Ten or an SEC team, all of whom deserve to be in the college football playoff. My Syracuse Orange is 3-1. They haven't played an ACC game, and they've beaten Liberty, Ohio, and UAlbany.
Yeah, but you got that last-second field goal to get by that pesky Liberty group last week. I mean, come on.
Liberty was favored by 6 points, I believe, was the spread going into that game. Like, oh my God. That tells you everything you need to know about the ACC. The ACC is awful. They should just eliminate them from the playoff altogether and tell them nobody can get in.
And you didn't even mention Miami and Florida State, which are just going into irrelevance. Can't believe Florida State hadn't fired Mark Navarro yet. Miami hasn't been Miami in a long time, and no one's shedding tears over that. So
NC State's the top-ranked team. The top ACC team is ranked 23rd. It's incredible. And the CFSU 0-4, BC at 4-0. I see BC men's ice hockey usually 4-0.
Yeah, but and listen, BC is better. BC is a legit team, but they can't be the best team in the ACC. Not right now.
I enjoyed that NC State game the other day. I had it on, and the crowd was into it. You kind of wanted to see it do it. Mm-hmm. A little Clemsoned out. I like Dabo. I like what he's built there. We did our preseason predictions. I'm kind of looking for somebody new playing at the end of the year, so they're done. But it's kind of amazing that they're not getting the quarterback play they got. Obviously without Lawrence, but the quarterback this year is not the same as he was last year when he filled in for Trevor. So it's just kind of time for them to take a step back. They'll be back next year. They recruit them, the program recruits itself. But yeah, it's a tough year down there. I don't know. Who else, are they better than the AAC? Do we got to flip around the letters in the alphabet?
Listen, Cincinnati's really good.
We'll see how they can do against Notre Dame. Yeah.
My parents will be in the house this weekend at Notre Dame.
Awesome.
Well, good for NC State because they broke a curse, and I'm not calling it a curse because the coach called it a curse. Okay, 9 years Doran has had missed field goals, bad penalties, or no penalty call against Clemson, and he called them the gold standard of the league. So good for NC State. I think North Carolina was highly touted. They're sitting at 2-2. They played Virginia. They played Tech. They're just not playing well. And the question with BC this week is Clemson going to lose to BC because the Eagles, I believe, their starting quarterback, Kirkovec, may not be playing. So you're right. This is now the NFC East of college football is what the ACC is.
And the thing is for Clemson, they need Wake, Louisville, NC State. They need all those teams to sustain and to start to take that next step because I think they're quickly realizing that one loss in that conference is killing them. Yeah. If you have a better conference altogether, you have the chance to salvage your season and beat good teams to get back into the playoff. That's not going to happen this year because no one is good enough. And the SEC, you lose 1 or 2 games, you still have a chance to beat multiple ranked opponents the rest of the way. You can't do that in the ACC. And I think they're probably realizing like, man, our conference is really hurting us at this point.
Yeah, in the SEC, you're automatically going to have a great strength of schedule just because of who you play.
Yep.
So yeah, it's how the Pac-10's been or Pac-12 has been for years. They haven't had anybody any good, and then they start to pick each other off, and they're all just kind of right in the middle. So yeah, Eric, what is on your board?
The bird on the hat, give it away.
Oh, look at that!
Yes,
you even drew.
It's a pretty good logo.
Good writing.
Yeah, need the red marker.
Great penmanship. It's an A for penmanship.
We all know about the Yankees and the 27 world titles, but who is second? Well, it's the St. Louis Cardinals. They have the 11, the most of any NL team. And at least me as a baseball fan, when I think of the Cardinals, I immediately think playoffs for good reason. For a 15-year span, including 2015, they made the playoffs 12 times. We just assume they're there. They have great fans, super loyal. Prior to 2020, they had 8 straight years, averaging 40,000 fans in 15 of 16 years. Think about that in baseball, okay? 40,000 is what you see for a 4-game homestand in St. Petersburg, Florida, if you're lucky. Now, this isn't a star-studded LA-like roster. It's a roster of players who do not quit. They were 1 game under 500 in early August. The deals of Lester and Happ went over about as well as a Cub fan with a hat on in a St. Louis bar. Nobody there was pleased about it. And then the Birds didn't head south. They broke the franchise record set in 1935, and they've now won, as of taping, 17 straight. The most since Cleveland 4 years ago when they won 22. They're slugging .531. Goldschmidt hitting nearly Ted Williams-ish. Wainwright, what a horse. 6 straight, 10 of 11, okay? And those 2 vets that they joked about have really helped stabilize the club. They're not giving up the homers and keeping the walks low. So on September 16th, the 2011 title team had a reunion. The question here, we know it's a tough road, but will there be such a thing for this team in 10 years from now? And stranger things have happened, but for the Dodgers or Giants in next week's NL wildcard game, watch out because these birds are flying. Thoughts?
Yeah, I love it. Listen, I'm not going to pick them to win the World Series just because I think that would be silly with all the talent out there. But what I think is so great about this run is, like you talk about, was it a 13-game winning streak that the Yankees had, 12-game winning streak in the middle of the season that people got all amped up about? The Cardinals' 17-game winning streak, they've made it look easy in a lot of ways. Of those 17 games, 4 of them were 1-run games. Most of them were 3 and up. So like they're not only are they winning, they're doing it in games that aren't really all that close. You sweat a couple of them, but they've done it with some ease and they've just looked like they've had fun doing it. So at no point did I think like, well, they're going to lose this game coming up or they're going to lose this game coming up. I just keep thinking like, yeah, they're just going to keep on winning.
Yeah, it's a great baseball town too. You talked about the loyalty, the fans show up, and good for them. I think they're going to run into a buzzsaw next week named Max Scherzer. But incredible. Adam Wainwright to me is one of the best stories of the year.
Yes.
He's a guy, I don't even know how secure his roster or rotation spot was at the start of the year.
Right.
I mean, he was their closer when they made the World Series over 10 years ago. It's amazing that he's still doing it, but he's putting up some great numbers for them. And I'm a big Yadi Molina fan. I think he's a Hall of Famer. He's probably a future manager if he wants to. So that would be a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, they're playing great baseball at the right time of the year, and sometimes timing is everything. And we'll see how they can do in the playoffs. But if they can get by that 1 game, I hate the 1-game playoff. Give me a best of 3.
I know,
right? But if you win your division, you don't have to worry about it. But
is
good
Yachty
for Arenado
too.
You know, Arenado, let's give him some credit. You sit in Colorado and you make 2 playoffs and you're gone in all those years and the fun that he's having in that city. And I agree with Molina. It's nice to hear you say that, Sean, because people think, oh, he's a catcher that doesn't hit. Excuse me. Catching is defense 1, hitting 2, as far as I'm concerned. You have one of the most difficult positions.
My question is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? I think he might be.
And
I think so.
You are controlling the game as a catcher. And he and Wainwright are one of the longest running ever in baseball history, pitching catching duos. So it's not a coincidence that they have won all these years. And,
no, Yachty can hold his own at the plate for sure. And he's one of the best defensive catchers with a gun back there the baseball's ever seen.
Yeah,
I think he's another manager on the field for them. That's what I think of him. I think he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer down the road.
Yeah, me too. I also, you guys know how I feel about catching, and you said this too. It's defense 1 and hitting 2. I don't care if my catcher doesn't hit as long as he doesn't as long as he's not hitting like 070. Like, you know what I mean? I don't care. I've said this before, I'll take Kyle Higashioka every day over Gary Sanchez because I want the defense over the offense. And Higgy does enough for the Yankees at the plate that he's not detrimental to their offensive output. I'll take him over Sanchez every day. And that's why someone like Yachty is so valuable.
Yeah. All right. So for years, I've kind of banged on the NFL for their greed. Okay. It bothers me. They won 17 regular season games. They have it. They eventually won 18, but in the room next door, they're giving a press conference on the importance of player safety. Okay, they're doing that to increase the pocketbook. Fine, but I think at some point you're the king of sports in this country. Enough is enough. But in this case, for this topic, my man Gordon Gecko, greed is good. You're hearing that the NFL is looking at about $2.5 billion with a B, $1 billion a year for the Sunday ticket following the 2022 season, and DirecTV is not going to be able to come up with that sort of cabbage. So they're out. You're hearing Amazon Prime, possibly Apple. Thank God. And I'll tell you why. Because as a guy that used to live in an apartment, I couldn't get a dish.
Yeah.
Owned a house 18 years ago in Albany, New York. Tried to get a dish put up. Didn't have line of sight because some neighbor 4 houses down had massive trees. I couldn't get it. Caused me to miss the Jamarcus Russell era. I'm married now. I got a better chance of flying out to a Vegas Raider game next week than I do of getting a dish put on my house. God love my wife. She thinks it's an eyesore. I'm not going to fight that fight with her. I've been lucky the last few years that a good friend of mine has given me his information to use the Sunday Ticket app.
Beautiful.
So I'm able to see all the Raider games. God bless them. Great thing. But now that it's going to be on a streaming service, which is what it should be. I think the NFL, they got a ton of money from DirecTV, but you also cut out a great number of people that just could not get a dish for the reasons I just said, right? So I heard they even put together a package like Angel did, at least before ESPN took over. Well, you could pay for one team. I've been paying for Boston Bruins games individually for years. But what I love about the option is this. I got up last Sunday morning and just for S and giggles, I wanted to see what the TV options were for our area. 1 o'clock, Falcons at Giants.
That was it.
4:05, Denver and the Jets. Pass. You had the Bucks and
Bucks Rams.
And Rams. Okay, that's a winner in the Sunday night. But I just remembered like back in the mid 90s when the Cowboys and 49ers were the teams and they were getting ready to play and you realize it's Giants at Cardinals week. And that was going to be your game. It's just awful. So hopefully it does become a little more of a streaming option and people can enjoy their favorite teams. I think it just makes the NFL stronger.
Yeah. Listen, I don't have a ton to say about this because I don't have a lot of experience with DirecTV. I've always had cable, so I can only watch the 3 games that we get in those 1 o'clock and 4:30 windows. But what I do know is this. If I want to watch a specific team, I go out to somewhere, a bar that has DirecTV and has the NFL Sunday Ticket. And what I know is that if it's raining, not even like thunderstorming, if it's raining, I can't see the damn game because it cuts out every 5 seconds and goes to black and says it's having problems. There's nothing I hate more than seeing that just like DirecTV logo scrolling on a blue screen because the satellite can't pick it up because it's bad weather. I will never have DirecTV, so I hope that they make the change, but that's the only thing I have to say.
First of all, Ashley, I'm surprised Sean didn't have a forest planted so he could not see the Jamarcus Russell years, But when my father-in-law did have DirecTV, he was not a big fan of it for exactly what you said with the weather and all of that. To me, when I want to see a Sunday, and if the Patriots are not on locally because of the lovely market that we're in, which for some reason they say the Bills are in this market, even though it's it seems like 80 billion miles away, I watch the Red Zone. And I have to say, my father-in-law was not a fan of it because he liked to follow drives and stuff. But when I see the Red Zone, I'm thinking I may see, let's say, hypothetically, Justin Tucker kick a 66-yard field goal. It is amazing to me because first of all, I hope the guy has a catheter. I don't know how he never takes a break, okay? But it's amazing. But to be able to see every impact play and that witching hour to me is just remarkable. There's nothing like it. But I agree with you. If this could be a very good thing for fans, similar to the MLB extra innings package, I can watch every single Boston game here, and my brother-in-law in Florida can do the same. And a Packer fan somewhere in Miami can do that. Then I hope this happens in the NFL.
Yes. Yeah, like extra innings. I've had that every year that Major League Baseball has offered it. And even I read on Twitter, John Buccigross tweeted the other day, like I said, I've been paying for Bruins games on NHL TV for years. that I don't want to research this, but I think ESPN, you get all out of market games if you have the ESPN Plus subscription, which I do, because if they're partnered with Disney and Disney Plus, and Disney Plus fuels my house with my boys. So it's an extra little bonus for me that they can watch. They can watch any show they want while I'm watching the Bruins get their thing done. So let's hope it happens and get it a little more live stream.
Yeah, the Red Zone is awesome, though. If I don't have a rooting interest, I'm good with the Red Zone. But if I have a rooting interest, I need to go out and see it. Luckily for me, I have a rooting interest in a terrible team that happens to be on TV every week because we're in the market.
And the NFL Red Zone is made for fantasy.
Yep.
No question.
Yep.
Absolutely no question. You will basically see every touchdown, every field goal, which means that you'll see your guys get it. And that, I think, has really led to the increase of that channel.
Yeah, and if you don't see it live, you see it 15, 20 seconds later. So it's awesome. All right, boys. Next week, we'll see you then. If you are looking for us, we're on Twitter at MMMATB1. That's M across the board. Sean, Eric, Ashley. We're also on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Share our content, please. We would love it if you do, and we hope you come back next week.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Thank you.